don't understand.
Yeah, either way. So
Training, business, relationships. You never skip a beat. Your phone's gone off 30 times since sitting here. You know, like, how do you do it?
I guess I've got good support around me. You know, my wife's amazing. My children support me. You know, I've got a very strong faith in God, which keeps me driven, you know, and I do it for the right reasons. I didn't do this business to make money. Brokers made money before my time. You know, the broker game now is about relationship and building relationships and strengthening them.
Come on, give me the intro, man.
Start. Forget about your intro. Just fuck the intros, fuck everything.
Surviving the digital jungle is tough. We're here to guide you through it on the Digital Jungle Podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody from the AIIMS HQ. Today we have our distinguished guest, Allan Shenouda, the Managing Director of Bespoke Financial Advisory. Allan, how are you?
Good, thank you, John.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So this is a bit of an interesting one because not only do we have a working relationship, but we also know each other on a personal level and have done so have known each other for many years now. Yep. This journey of yours, 28 years in the banking sector, 6 years in brokering and financing, and now 2 years on your own. Bespoke Financial Advisory is a unique business that you've basically come up with. So from what I've heard, you've identified a gap in the market and you've gone out on your own and you've created this somewhat large company now that's close to hitting $1 billion in funding in such a short period of time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper as to 2 years you've been, Bespoke's been in action now for 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. What drove you to open this company in the middle of all of the negative backlash in probably one of the worst times in Australian, probably global history, with this Royal Commission and the crackdown on the banking sector and the policies and everything that went into place, all the negative press and all the negative things that would have seen, thousands of other brokers shut down overnight. Yet you've come into it at the back of that and you've nearly hit $1 billion in funding. Because I know you personally, I understand why. You're eccentric and there really is no one like you at what you do. But the listeners won't be able to understand it and more than likely think it's a lie, right? So are you able to give me a little bit more behind what actually drove you to this, what one would call crazy mindset of coming into the market this way?
Yeah, I guess probably the easiest way to answer that, Janty, is the broker market to me historically were non-qualified, and I'm not stereotyping here, 90% of the broker market were people that typically shouldn't have been brokers, and that's why the Royal Commission started and has continued to see reform in the market. I did things, worked extremely hard, was questioned about my work ethic in the banking sector for the last 28 years. And I guess the next phase of my growth and the ability to do what I do well for my clients and for my family was to set up the Bespoke business. People always said to me, why Bespoke? Bespoke's a tailored solution. I'm not your typical broker per se. I dress like a banker. I act as if I'm, one of the boys. I relate to, corporate executives, at the higher end of the market, CEOs of banks I deal with personally. And I guess, the Bespoke was built on my ability to execute and maintain strong relationships through my journey.
Wow. Okay. So you start from, basically give us a little bit of a timeline now. In the Bespoke journey, the day you started, how many people did you have in the team?
Probably put it back into perspective. I ran a very successful broker business for a couple of years before I transitioned into Bespoke, and which really set me, away from the competitors. What I learned in that business is basically why I'm even better now than I was in that business. That business taught us what not to do and how to really strengthen and build our relationships with our clients. So it was an easy fit to go into the Bespoke model, the way in which I speak to clients, I see an average of 12 to 15 clients a day. I see clients, whether it be for lunch on the weekends, auctions on the Saturdays. I do a lot of networking with my clients and really, really connect with them.
From my own memory, you've come number one in the banking world many times whenever it was rated or whenever they had awards and competitions and that. You had basically always come number one 90% of the times that I was looking, right? Yep. People that are going to be looking at this, they're either going to be, in the banking sector, they're either going to be our clients. A lot of our beautiful clients watch our shows to try and increase their mindset and their knowledge base. So, I want to touch on a few points. I know relationships are key in business, right? And everybody says that. What's the longest relationship you've held with a client of yours?
Yeah. So my longest relationship currently is 24 years. 24
years. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Like, how does somebody keep a relationship for 24 years? Because it's not just about the lowest interest rate. Not
at all. I treat their business as if it's mine. What applies to me applies to them. I don't differentiate. I'm black and white in regards to, I'm not a hypocrite. So, I want people to prosper. I want people to grow. I want, I advise clients strategically. I've got an accounting background and a Bachelor of Commerce majoring in marketing. My life events have enabled me to be successful and continue to be successful with my relationships.
How much of your life events or how much of your success right now could you attribute to your uni degree?
Probably 5%, realistically. Yeah, I guess, look, I wouldn't say what I studied.
Being really honest.
Yeah, look, what I studied in uni has helped me in regards to probably about 5% of what I do in a day-to-day lifestyle. What it has taught me is the ability to manage pressure. Having a uni degree teaches you focus in regards to being committed. And I guess that's probably the biggest taking I've had by my education.
I'm taken back at, 3 kids, you're a working dad, you've got a little kid too, you've got a little baby as well. You're married, you're kind of the head of your house, you've looked after your family all your life, you're super successful in what you do right now, and you have obviously so much success ahead of you, God willing. Were you just born into money? Is that why, you've had this lifestyle and this extravagant lifestyle?
No, on the contrary. I grew up single parent. Dad left when I was 3.5 years old and left my mum with a mortgage. She had to learn how to drive with a mortgage, and two young sisters, beneath me. So it was a tough upbringing, but it's the upbringing that I wouldn't change for the world.
Wow. Do you think that's a part of what makes you drive today?
Totally. Mum was an extremely hardworking single parent, accountant by background, very strong in her faith, and really instilled those values in me and just helped me.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Penrith, South Penrith, my whole life. Mum still lives out there. Great area, booming now. So.
Wow. Okay, great. What made you go against the grain and step out, invest so much money into your own setup and into your own business? From what I've seen, you guys have bought your own premises. You've, put a 5-star renovation in place. I've never seen anything like it. You have a real knack for style and design, and you take a lot of pride in it. Yeah. What is it that made you take the jump?
Yeah, I guess probably the most...
The fork in the road.
Yeah, I guess probably the most important part is brokers talk the talk, but don't walk it. I guess probably the most important part. I do my own developments. I'm the first broker in the country to actually purpose build an office from ground up development, did the feasibility, did the QS, did the valuation, and source my own funding to be able to do a development, and we were successful. We ended up returning a 42% return in 12 months by doing that, and our headquarters speak for themselves.
So tell me, let's say, for example, there's, somebody who's currently in university, who's 20 years old, 22, looking out in the world thinking, everything's expensive. There's kind of opportunities there, but where, do you have any advice to anyone right now that's sitting, looking at you going, I'd love to be like him one day?
Yeah.
What's the main core thing that they need to realize they need?
I personally think that people need to have, they have to have, number one, values. They have to have a great work ethic and a desire to succeed. when the propensity for businesses to fail in the first 10 years,
65% fail, something like
something
that.
in that statistics. So I guess you need to work, and look, let me say this to you. I've been in business for personally, I've got various side businesses as well, but the bespoke business has been going over 2.5 years now, and it hasn't been a smooth ride from day one. You have your growing pains like any business does. You're growing too fast, meet the demand of the market.
Yeah, without dropping or compromising quality.
So we didn't let any staff go through the whole ordeal. We persevered through the Royal Commission, through the bushfires.
Wow.
Through all those events. And we've come out the other end and continue to refine what we do.
So in your world, how do you think COVID's actually impacted your book of businesses? So I know you can only talk on behalf of what you see.
Sure. But
is there anything that's kind of stood out? Are there any real standouts from this? Because we're not post-COVID yet. Melbourne's still suffering. Many businesses that rely on international freight or their products moving around, like they're all suffering, right?
Yeah.
You guys have a pretty vast experience in demographic of clients.
Yep.
Not all the same, right?
No. Our clients are all throughout Australia. So I'm traveling continuously. So that was probably the hardest challenge, not being able to travel to see my clients in Perth, South Australia, Melbourne, Brisbane. So that's the biggest challenge. But I think
a lot of your business is based on face-to-face relationships as well.
And that's
right?
it. I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to Zoom and all these funky.
We'll help you with that.
Yeah. So, but I guess probably the most important part of the whole COVID and dealing with COVID is staying true to what you do, educating your clients along the way. Because people, what we're seeing now is unprecedented growth in properties. Now, the supply and demand, our borders are closed. Ask yourself what's driving the economy at the moment.
Well, that was my next question. What from an economical point of view, what do you think is driving the economy, and how sustainable is the current bubble? Like, I heard a stat the other day. 2 years ago, the average savings a couple would need to do, which would be your traditional live with your in-laws or live with your parents or room share, whatever, would be 4 years. Mm-hmm. 4 years of hard slog, and you have a deposit. It's actually now gone up to 10 years.
Yep.
What's driving it? Why, how does somebody keep up?
Yeah.
What advice can you give to us? Educate us on what we should be doing. Your first home buyer, your investor, your, the kid that has come across a little bit of money and needs to put it in the right place.
Sure. So what we're seeing in the sectors at the moment, we're seeing the share market show signs of unprecedented growth. Property growth, supply and demand is the issue. Your current average interest rate on a home loan or a commercial loan is, between 2% if it's variable. It's up to 2.5% on commercial. So
2.5% on commercial.
Yeah. So
never heard of it.
Yeah. Look, we just did a pub. We just did a $60 million pub at sub 2%. So there's some crazy rates, and when you've got crazy rates, our inflation is driven by that. Okay. You can't the property at the moment, you can't actually buy residential stock. Okay. So first home buyers, unfortunately, at the moment, if you needed to invest now, and this is just my own personal opinion, if you needed to invest now and you're a first home buyer, get yourself a unit, because units are under distress. The yields are not, as strong as commercial investments. And first home buyers won't be able to come into the market, unfortunately. But what we're going to see is when the borders open and we're able to trade again, we'll start seeing pressure for interest rate increases in Australia.
Why do you think the interest rates will go up if the borders open?
Because we'll have an influx. So Australia, as a collective community, we were the strongest to overcome COVID. Australia as an economy is in the strongest position against the world. Australia will be a draw card. What that means is that when the borders open, we'll see demand coming into Australia. Okay. The only way we're going to slow that demand and the property inflation prices is by increasing interest rates. We're already starting to see fixed rates increase. Okay.
Really?
Yep. So we're starting to see the 3 to 5 year fixed rates increase dramatically. Therefore, we're going to see signs on the wall that it's a matter of time. And we do need it as an economy. As much as people will question my comments, businesses thrive better in a higher interest rate market. I sympathise with mums and dads and the first home buyers, because they will be affected more than anyone.
Yeah.
With interest rates increasing.
Let's say Australia is going to be a draw card.
Yes.
So I don't understand the physics behind people coming to Australia and the interest rates needing to raise, because that's only going to really affect locals. That's not going to affect people that come from outside.
No. So foreign investment, to invest into Australia, you've got a foreign tax now. But again, the returns that you're getting in China and in Europe are not to the same level that we're getting in Australia. So they're wanting to bring their funds and reinvest here.
So it's a safer place.
Definitely.
So the more Australians work on making this place better, you know, and the quality of life better, the economy better and stable, the actual more of a international draw card that is for anybody that's sitting with a little bit of capital anywhere else in the world.
Yep.
In any unstable market, to just simply say Australia's open for business, let me go there and put my money there.
Totally.
So bringing that money in, then essentially for us to control it, or for the government to control it, they have to raise the interest rate to slow down the demand.
Yeah. So look, the investment into Australia, you know, there's two ways to answer that. Okay. So, you know, the current investment into Australia will only benefit the Australian community, okay, and the Australian businesses.
Right.
You know, the desire for foreign investment to invest into Australia, if controlled the correct way, which I believe our government has the protocols and systems to do so, will only strengthen both employment, properties, and trading businesses. So we're only going to strengthen that ability. Okay, we've seen foreign investment come and buy our farms. You know, multinationals buy various trading businesses that drive the Australian economy, and we're going to see. You know, historically, we allowed all our exports to go overseas. We're going to see a lot more investment into manufacturing in Australia in coming years as well.
Well, that would be good to see.
Yeah, which will also help.
Yeah, that would be good to see. Okay, look, I get it. I hope the listeners get it too. But you know, as much as sometimes it's a bit of a slap in the face, because it's a yucky reality.
Yep.
You know, like interest rates going up, expenses are going up, living expenses are going up, everything's going up. You know, it kind of, when you look at that, you think, you know, you lose a little bit of optimism in your own growth and how you think it's like you're fighting this wave, you know.
Yep.
But I guess, you know, historically we've always had these ups and downs.
Sure.
It's not the first time, you know, in 28 years, you should be able to recall three,
GFC, yep.
the GFC, the tip or talks of some stage when I was younger, there was a recession talk at one stage, the housing market crashed. Like,
sure.
What is it outside of the obvious answers of resilience?
Yeah.
You know,
I guess COVID, probably the biggest thing, COVID was basically like an uppercut. Okay. So it shook people up. But in all fairness to the Australian economy, and the reason why Australia continues to strengthen, I'll bet when COVID first hit, the banking sector basically closed its doors, panicked, overcorrected itself, and it's still, you know, coming to terms with that. I feel for a lot of businesses through the initial stages of COVID. You know, our Australian government really supported small businesses, you know, and with, you know, the government boost packages, etc. JobKeeper and JobSeeker. Notwithstanding, I think there's been some positives come out of COVID. You know, I'll bet there's negatives, whereby people have adjusted their spending. You know, people are not going in overseas holidays, so they're reinvesting back into the Australian economy, strengthening our Australian economy inside, opposed to reinvesting outside. You know, we've seen South Coast, North Coast show 44% growth year on year, astronomical.
Wow.
You know, will those areas be affected when the borders open? Yeah, definite. You know, do I advise?
They're not in demand anymore.
They'll be in demand because Australia as an economy has learned to adapt. But what we will see is a slight correction in those areas, because when people can travel, they will want to travel just to tick it off the bucket list. You know, but I still think there's been some positives and as much as negatives through COVID. You know, stability is back in the marketplace. Unemployment is at an all-time sustainable level at the moment, and the government continues to incentivize businesses to thrive and prosper and grow.
Allan, you represent almost borderline $1 billion portfolio, right? Now, if we're going to talk about, you know, the economy, a concern surely would be how it would impact your book and your clients, right? Because you guys love your clients and you love your relationships. What percentage, like, if you were to get a pie chart and go, okay, this part of your life or your business's life needs to be about proactive measures, the Armageddon, and this percentage is about living now, operating now. Who determines that? How do you determine that percentage?
So the way
what's the advice there?
So the way in which I deal with my clients is not a simple solution, I guess. So, if a client comes to me just for a simple home loan and moves on, that's not the type of clients we're building. We're building sustainable growth clients that are really having the desire to grow, understand the inflows and outflows of their cash positions, understanding what it means to invest in certain sectors and understand, a simple SWOT analysis on various investment strategies. We look at, cash flow forecast every day for our clients and stress test them and challenge them. And, most people won't do that and don't have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about losing clients. I'm concerned about clients that want to join the Bespoke team to really understand that we're there for them, to support them, to grow with them, and to really just, relate to them.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's say, with, all the potential negative things that are kind of coming into fruition, right?
Yep.
Everyone's talking about still in the last 2 weeks, how crazy the property market is. That obviously affects funding,
Sure,
serviceability, values, all that stuff, right? Let's say the talk's real when they talk about essentially the bubble popping or busting. Part of financial advice, how do you help a business steer its ship through something like that?
Yeah. So I guess, look, I'm not going to give financial advice, but what I will say to that question is simple. We're seeing unprecedented growth in certain sectors, certain properties. Again, I reiterate, the supply and demand is what's driving it. The low interest rates are driving it. Do I agree that people should be leveraging against, their principal place of residence now and trying to be aggressive and growing their portfolio in this period of time? Not at all. If you have a sustainable cash flow business and negating any issues, then I would look and have a coffee with me, and I'll explain to you the pros and cons to doing so. But it's paramount to understand that if you've seen growth in your properties over the last 2 years in particular, because of the COVID, Royal Commission, etc., all those factors, then you need to really question, are you really overinflating and overcapitalizing on your current growth?
Yeah, I agree. Like the traditional 80-20 rule shouldn't really exist in this hyperinflated time.
Yeah, you really need to be diligent in regards to lending in this market and really understand that to invest in this market is great. But look at the yield that you're trying to return. If you're buying a property, if you're buying an investment, understand what benefit there is. Particularly in where I live, specific duplex sites are going for 30. I worked it out on the weekend, about 33% year on year. They've seen growth. Now, I don't see the sustainable benefit and how people can come into the market and buy those and do a development on that and capitalize on that.
The gravy train's basically over.
Yeah, I think that COVID has also educated the market, on what other investments are out there to capitalize on. At the moment we're seeing share prices go through the roof. We're seeing property prices go through the roof.
That's right.
Are we concerned about the property, a bit of a correction in the Australian economy? I guess that our government's playing that very close to the chest at the moment, keeping interest rates low, so we don't go back into recession. Is a fine line. But understanding that we're seeing pressures with interest rates increasing, and I guess you've got to be very, very sure of your investment strategy over the next coming 2 years.
Wow. Fair enough. There are things like, additional income that we need to factor in here. The gig economy has gone up 72% in Australia in the last 24 months. So, your Uber, your freelancers, your, general handyman, for example, general services, the helper, these things have, poured money into the pockets of people that would have previously been stuck on a traditional, salary.
Correct.
Stuck, so there is more of an opportunity out there for people to earn more, right?
Yep.
cutting a little bit of the red tape, I find it a bit funny that, only 24 months after the big Royal Commission that made, everybody stand still, all of a sudden we're in a property boom, record numbers of settlements, record levels of funding, COVID, mixed lines, grey lines everywhere. I find it, I don't know if you can comment on it, but, I find it ironic that within such a short period of time that, an average Joe Blow or a self-employed person can just, go to the bank and be funded. I can go to the bank now and get $500,000 more than I could a year and a half ago.
Yep.
Not much has changed.
Yeah.
Find it a bit funny.
Yeah, I guess the banks were forced to, through COVID, they basically stopped lending. For 6 months, they actually stopped lending. They basically worked very closely with their existing clientele to really support them and understand what their needs were for them. And that was their major focus. I guess the banks have, and through the Royal Commission, and I bet I would have liked to see more scrutiny on brokers and financial planners through the Royal Commission, but I'll bet, the scrutiny that we're abided by, I think it's a benefit for our industry.
It's more so like, what, like the Royal Commission, like as big as it was, it's a thing of the past now.
Correct.
It's like it doesn't exist anymore. And, it looks like history is repeating itself to me.
Yeah, no, I think the Royal Commission, the good things about the Royal Commission and responsible lending are a good thing for us and bankers per se. So I think I wouldn't say, that it's making it easier. I think it's you're having better conversations with your clients to really understand their needs and wants and putting objectives in place that actually align to what they are trying to achieve.
Well, awesome. Look, thank you. The information so far has been so beneficial. I've actually learned a lot from it myself. But so talk to me about, why. I know I've heard and I've seen that you're really big on charity, right? Talk to me about, one thing that I've been wanting to really ask, is, as fast paced as your life is, and, as successful as you are as an individual, you're very big on charity. And there's a charity in particular that I read up about that I've seen you kind of endorse and get your hands involved with. It was about men's anxiety. So I feel like just in general, it's a topic that isn't discussed publicly.
Yep.
Men are not allowed to have anxiety for some reason. And when you do, you got to hide it. So basically, why is it important? How can you help?
Yeah, I guess for me personally, I've suffered depression and anxiety for over 8 years. And whether that's because of my work ethic or my desire to not let people down, we're still working on it, I guess. Mr. Perfect is one of those charities that we support, and I believe in helping people that are less fortunate than us. We're blessed every day to wake up, come to a great office, do what we love every day. And I think it's important that you sometimes reflect and give back to people that are not so doing it so well. Men's mental health is very close to me and really something that, friends of mine have passed away through not being able to deal with that. And I think whatever I can do to help that, we will do. And the people in my office, 17 staff, will continue to support those because they believe in it as well.
So would you say that you're an advocate for men's health? Yeah,
look, I'd like to think that, if people understood the journey that I've gone through and the way in which I deal with my own anxiety, I guess, will help understand the reason and the rational reason why I support these charities. I guess every settlement we do, whether the men's mental health charity or the other vast charities that we support, every settlement we do for a client, we give the client the choice of donating a portion of our revenue to those specific charities.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it says a lot about your character, but anxiety, like how bad can it be? How bad could it have been? What is your lowest point?
Yeah, look, I can tell you, I went through a stage where, I'd drive to work, I'd leave home at 4:00 in the morning, typical pressures of work, running a successful business and not letting your clients down and having deadlines. I'd cry for half an hour, while I'm driving, and I'd have to really talk to myself and strengthen my mind before I go to the gym and train and, put my my banking hat on and, get to the office and lead the team, I guess. So it is hard. And, I sympathize with people that do suffer depression and anxiety because they're very closely related.
Yeah. How much would you say it's been able to impact, your decision making in terms of making good decision, making a bad decision?
Yeah, not being able to deal with depression and anxiety, I went through therapy for multiple years.
Did it help?
Definitely helped, so I definitely believe in speaking to a practitioner, but it definitely did help. And I definitely, being aware of your problem and working towards it and understanding the drivers behind that, I think is paramount to overcoming those and dealing with them. And I think a little bit of anxiety, is a good thing sometimes in business, to really succeed.
Yeah, I agree. We've been on the edge here sometimes because the funny thing is, people can look at your life and look at where you are today, and they really don't know or have any insight on the actual journey.
Yeah.
Like journeys are from when you're born. Like what happened then. How did you grow up? Why did that person grow up different?
Sure.
And it becomes a part of your mental mindset. Things that you believe in. But one good thing is, surviving through depression and anxiety and getting older are a win, right?
Yep.
Because every time the older you get, the wiser you become, the more you settle down, the more you're able to deal with problems and all that stuff, right? But, like, were your friends there for you when you needed them?
Oh, definitely. One of my best mates, we speak every second day, every day. Sometimes he's a great supporter of mine, and, and he supports another charity that we support, and and he suffers his own demons, and we talk and relate to it, and really try to work and strengthen other people in our circle to help them understand and that they know that we're there for them.
You've mentioned anxiety, but like without kind of pushing you a little bit too hard, there's got to be more behind it. Like we were talking about, there's people listening to you now that are maybe suffering that at the moment that can't identify it. So speaking to a practitioner is helpful. Your friends around you are helpful.
Yeah, but being,
But what does it feel? What's the feeling?
Yeah, probably the hardest part, with anxiety, I guess, let's group it back a little bit, but, depression starts, then it leads to anxiety to that level. So I guess understanding the root cause is important. To this day, I still suffer depression and anxiety. Am I dealing with it better? Hell yeah. Can I educate and strengthen people that have depression and anxiety? Yes, I can. I've dealt with therapy. I was medicated, for multiple years. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can be successful and have, depression and anxiety
So
situations.
let's say, for example, you've opened your business 2 years ago, like we said earlier on, in the worst time in Australia's history, right? And you've succeeded at it, but you haven't been at your lowest point in anxiety, yet you've worked double the amount of hours.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing is that I never want to fail, which puts more pressure on my anxiety.
So do you set realistic expectations of yourself?
No, not at all. I'm probably the hardest on anyone. So I'm a big hypocrite. So the way in which I treat myself is probably harder than I treat any employee or any client, but it's what drives me to be better. I hope that, the way in which, I can tell you, I'm quite insightful with my staff and my clients, that they continue to listen to me and learn from me and basically make financial decisions based on what I do and how I lead them. Anxiety is one of those things that I'll continue to deal with, and some days good, some days bad. I'm dealing with some other health issues personally now, and have been for the last 9 months. Let me tell you that anxiety went through the roof to try to be able to deal with them and rationalize those. And like you said earlier, I've got a young family, so being healthy and fit, is important to me. Where I'm now training to support again another charity. Via Steps of Hope. So I'll be doing a charity boxing event. You're
going to box?
And I'm going to box. And I'm training with an Olympic champion now.
When?
End of November.
Wow. Make sure you send us tickets.
Definitely, but it's to support Steps of Hope with the Lebanese events that occurred there with the bombing. They've been doing it really tough. And although I'm not Lebanese, I truly sympathise with the people that were hurt and are suffering in those countries. So, to do something, when one of my good clients called me and said, Allan, I want you to be part of this, and I want you to sponsor, but I want you to fight. I said, what? I'm over the hill, but again, something for charity and the right reasons, I'll do it, and I'll put myself out there, and and I'll have a great, I'll give it a great crack, and I'm looking forward to it.
You mentioned health earlier on. You mentioned dealing with a personal health problem. I won't go into detail about it, but being healthy, how important, how much do you attribute your health to your success?
Yeah, I guess
what you do, stamina wise.
Yeah, so look, I guess I've always had, growing up, tough upbringing, whether it be small man syndrome or not. I loved going to the gym to build myself up, doing martial arts my whole life. I did various different styles in martial arts. I love doing all that to prove my, to basically reconfirm my inabilities as a child, so
wow.
I love them, and it drives me to be better. Everything I do, I wanted to be the best, at karate. So I did it and applied myself at it, now I'm doing boxing, and I'm, training with the best to be the best at it.
Is it hard?
Yeah, it's excruciating. I'm sitting at 104 kilos. I've dropped in the last 4 weeks. I've only started 4 weeks ago. I'm doing it twice a week with Luke Jackson, who's an Olympic champion.
Wow.
And I'm blessed to have him train me. And my GM's also training as well.
How the fuck do you fit this all in?
Because it's
I don't understand.
Yeah, either way. So
training, business, relationships. You never skip a beat. Your phone's gone off 30 times since sitting here. How do you do it?
I guess I've got good support around me. My wife's amazing. My children support me. I've got a very strong faith in God, which keeps me driven, and I do it for the right reasons. I didn't do this business to make money. Brokers made money before my time. The broker game now is about relationship and building relationships and strengthening them.
Well done, man. Congratulations on where you've come so far. I really, can't wait to see and reflect back on this interview in 10 years' time and go, look at what the world thought of you then. Imagine, in 10 years' time. Allan, look, thank you so much for coming, man. I've been overwhelmed by having you on the show, and I can't wait, to do version 2, and, slowly start to really educate the market and educate people about brokering, about your company, about how you've worked with us, and about how you've also helped us. That's another segment on its own.
Sure.
But yeah, thank you. Look, thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Janty. Look, I'm blessed to be able to share this with you today and the wider audience, and I'm really excited about sharing the future with what myself and Bespoke are representing in the marketplace.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks.